As far as conspiracy theories go, David Icke has certainly made a name for himself, operating in the name of exposing the reality about who and what is really controlling the world. Icke has written 16 extremely long books, given multitudinous lectures and seminars, and appeared on many television and radio shows in search of and touting his alleged truth. The result is a hypothesis that has entered the mainstream consciousness, collecting quite a David Icke following and quite a bit more ridicule. But what is behind Icke's ideology? What causes Icke to tick? Once upon a time, David Icke was a pretty normal, innocuous British guy. An ex-professional football player turned television sports presenter, Icke was a fairly respected household name in England, and even became one of the 6 speakers for the Green Party in the United Kingdom. However, the chronic arthritis that originally caused him to quit playing football at 21 also made his thoughts take a turn towards the paranormal, specifically New Age treatments for his persistent pain. His dabbling, as well as severe depression, led him in 1990 to visit a psychic named Betty Shine, an interview that would change the course of his life forever. She told Icke that he was a healer, placed on the planet for a purpose, and that he would eventually become world famous, but the process would result in much opposition. Apparently, this pronouncement went to Icke's head. In February 1991, he went on a tour of the Silestani burial ground in Peru. There, he claims to have had his first revelation, akin to being plugged into an electrical socket and having a drill in his head. He attributed this feeling to Kundalini, a force which activated his chakras and brain, and thus reached a higher level of consciousness. He then entered his turquoise period. He wore nothing but turquoise because he claimed it put him on a higher spiritual plane. While there, he also had the psychic mistress move in with him and his wife, leading to their being dubbed as the Turquoise Triangle. This, however, was only preparation for the really weird stuff he had in store for the public. In March 1991, Icke, his wife, and the mistress called a press conference. Therein, he claimed that he was a channel for the Christ spirit and proceeded to predict a series of traumatic world events, including severe hurricanes, volcanic eruption, political disruptions, and earthquakes. All of these events were supposedly told to the Triangle by voices, and were going to lead up to the end of the world in 1997. The following month, he appeared on the BBC's Terry Wogan show. During his interview, he asserted that he was the Son of God. He reiterated the idea of the world would soon be devastated by earthquakes and hurricanes. He was severely belittled by Wogan, who made sure to point out to Icke that the laughter of his audience was not with him, but at him. Humiliated, Icke faded into obscurity for a couple of years, only to come back with a vengeance and the new conspiracy theory that would make him famous. The basis of Icke's comprehension theory originates in his 1999 book, The Biggest Secret. The secret Icke discovered in his research process is the world is run by lizard aliens. More specifically, the origin of humankind is a huge breeding project undergone by a race of reptilian aliens from the planet Draco called the Anunnaki. They came to Earth to mine monoatomic gold, which allows them to process vast amounts of information, speed up their transdimensional travel, and shape-shift more easily into the human form. These mysterious aliens live in the lower fourth or lower astral dimension with demons and feed off the fear, guilt, and aggression of the human slaves. So they continually foster war, sexual perversions, genocide, the mass slaughter of animals, and black magic ritual sacrifice to stave off their bloodlust and retain their powers. Additionally, the Reptilians created organized religion, race, ethnicity, and sexuality to further divide the human population. The Anunnaki periodically mate with humans in order to create very distinct ruling bloodlines. According to Icke's theory, the crossbreeding process happened 3 times, 200,000 to 300,000 years ago, 30,000 years ago, and 7,000 years ago. The Anunnaki spawn living in the world resulted in the Babylonian Brotherhood, so named because they originated in the ancient Middle East. This organization has ruled the world for all time, creating the Illuminati, the Round Table, the Bible, the Council on Foreign Relations, Chatham House, Trilateral Commission, the IMF, and the United Nations, as well as blanketing the media, military science, religion, and the internet. The Anunnaki also bred with an extraterrestrial race called the Nordics in order to produce a race of human slave masters called the Aryans. The Anunnaki have fiercely protected the interbreeding of these bloodlines because they are bred to have no human consciousness. In essence, the ruling elite are reptilian softwares who mindlessly do the bidding of the four-dimensional aliens. These world leaders retain many reptilian traits: cold-bloodedness, desire for top-down control, and fanatical obsession with ritual that leads to fascism, nationalism, and racism. They apparently first laid out their plans in the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is widely accepted as a Russian hoax published in 1903 to spur anti-Semitism. The bloodlines from the most recent genetic interference have resulted in the ruling class of the modern world, and include the British House of Windsor, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, European royalty, and aristocracy, and most Eastern establishment families in the United States. 43 of American presidents have been reptilians, as are Queen Elizabeth II and Steamboat Willie. As previously stated, this carefully protected bloodline is unable to mingle with the other two tiers of people in the world: the sheeple, or people who blindly follow the manipulations of the Anunnaki, and the exclusive third tier, who see through the lies. However, the reptilians are not nearly as secretive or smart as one would expect them to be. As the creators of the universe, as people frequently cite them mysteriously turning into their reptilian form on television and in public appearances. The ultimate goal of these global elites, also called the Great Work of Ages or a Brotherhood agenda, is world domination and microchipped population. The global elite, or red dresses, continually engage in satanic rituals, pedophilia, kidnapping children, and drug parties when they are not planning huge world terror events in order to cause a panic to further implement their carefully plotted control. The reptoids and their minions are currently centered in London. Robert Monroe, American writer, gained popularity after writing a book about an out-of-body experience in which he encountered reptiles. In 1958, Robert Monroe, a 43-year-old radio engineer from the United States, experienced a series of unusual accidents. First, he felt a powerful vibration deep in his chest. At some point, this feeling became so strong that he had to lie down. He felt himself floating outside his body. It is worth noting that up to this point, he was a fairly rational thinker. He believed in science and was categorically against magic and devilry. Monroe immediately panicked, believing himself dead, but the debilitating horror returned to the writer to a physical form, and that was just the beginning. The other occasions when he left his body and floated weightlessly around the room were identical. Monroe visited various doctors and psychologists, trying to make sure of his health, but every medical worker came to the conclusion that he was alright. Monroe decided to hone his newly discovered out-of-body abilities. Elated at his positive diagnosis, he became so engrossed in the subject that he abandoned a secure business career and devoted his life to the study of consciousness, discovery of hemispheric synchronization. Over the next 3 decades, Robert Monroe carefully analyzed out-of-the-body experience. The main goal of his research was to collect scientific data, proving the existence of the alternative reality. In hopes of making interdimensional travel more accessible, he developed a technology called hemisynchronization. This system, also known as the hemisync, uses sound patterns containing binaural beats to harmonize the work of the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Further, at his request, some independent clinical neurologists conducted extensive testing of volunteers using this experimental technique. To their surprise, the results were clearly visible on every EEG they took. Monroe's work paved the way for tangible altered states. The Monroe Institute was founded in 1974 and continues to this day. Monroe has developed a range of audio simulation techniques designed to improve focus, relieve stress, improve sleep, and more. Portal to another world, the US government paid special attention to Monroe, groundbreaking discoveries, and in 1978 he was visited by the CIA. High-ranking officials invited him to join a highly classified military project. They sought to use his mind-expanding practice to improve the mind control of soldiers during wartime. This would give a significant advantage over opponents. Robert Monroe agreed to collaborate with them to increase his authority in the study of out-of-body experiences and other paranormal phenomena. Since the participants in the experiments had to open portals to other dimensions during the sessions, the researchers have aptly named this work the Gate Process. The declassified files indicate that the program was a training system aimed at increasing the strength, concentration, and coherence of the amplitude and frequency of brain waves between the left and right hemispheres to change consciousness, allowing it to go beyond the physical world and eventually transcend even time and space. Subsequently, the participant gained access to various levels of intuitive understanding of the universe. Commander Wayne M. McDonald's latest research details the discoveries he made about the nature of our world. Researchers have shown that people live in holographic reality and that our life in the waking state is a projection of the electromagnetic matrix. Robert Monroe's encounter with the reptilians to explore unearthly regions. The participants sat in an isolated dark room. They put on headphones and listened to the different sound tones at certain frequencies. Participants did not attempt to contact or connect with each other. After completing their astral journey, the volunteers told the staff about their experiences. According to Robert Monroe, the subjects often encountered creatures from other dimensions. The most common humanoids were reptiles because of their toothy crocodile faces. The participants dubbed these supernatural creatures as alligators. It is strange that at that time, Monroe was already familiar with reptiles. He had witnessed similar lizard-like creatures during his many out-of-body adventures. Monroe and his team have been collecting data on these incredible creatures for over 35 years and found the following. Number 1. These wild lizards have controlled and enslaved humanity for millennia. Number 2. They exist and operate in the fourth dimension and are only visible to those people who can see beyond our extremely limited spectrum of visible light. Number 3. The reptilians feed on our spiritual life force, which Monroe called lush. Number 4. Negative or low vibrational energy is essential for their survival. Number 5. These parasitic creatures see the earth as a huge farm, where they collect human fear, hatred, anxiety, anger, and depression and feed on it. Number 6. Their intelligence equals or extends to that of a human. Number 7. This elusive reptilian race sees itself as the true and supreme ruler of humanity. Conclusion: Robert Monroe spent the rest of his days doing research on out-of-body experiences until his death in 1995. His convictions remained unchanged throughout the investigation. He often warned others that the reptilians controlled and fed on humans. He was certain of the presence of malevolent energy predators among us. Throughout the 1980s, breakthrough testing was carried out as part of the Open Gate project, the result of which were hundreds of successful flights to other worlds. Separate documents relating to this endeavor were made public in 2003, but it attracted surprisingly little public attention. According to some insiders, this experiment was classified and continues in one form or another to this day.